A man rides into a city he has never visited before. He is a stranger. He speaks the wrong language. He has no papers, no letters of introduction, no kin. By nightfall, he has a bed, a meal, a loan of silver, and a business partner. No questions asked. This is not luck. This is not charity. This is a system, invisible, ruthless, and older than most of the kingdoms it operates inside. For 200 years, a single network of merchant brotherhoods controls the flow of goods, money, and information across the whole of Europe. They set prices. They move armies by controlling their supply lines. They bankrupt kings. They build cathedrals, not for God, but because stone is good collateral. The church thinks it runs medieval Europe. It does not. The guilds do. And the story of how they seized that power, and what they did with it, has been buried inside ledgers, Latin charters, and sealed court records for 7 centuries. Until now. The year is 1180. The place is Northern Europe, the trading corridor that runs from Flanders in the west, through the Rhine Valley, east into the Baltic, and south into the Mediterranean ports of Genoa and Venice. The streets smell of tallow, river mud, and raw wool. Bread costs 2 pennies. A candle costs 4. Literacy rates sit below 10%. Your priest is one of perhaps 3 men in your village who can read. Your lord cannot. Into this world, the merchant class is rising. And they are organizing. The Hanseatic League, or what will eventually become it, begins not as a league of cities, but as a league of men. Specific men. Men who share a common set of rules, a common set of signs, and a common set of loyalties that sit entirely outside the feudal order above them and the church beside them. The feudal system tells you your place is fixed at birth. The church tells you your reward comes after death. The guild tells you something different. We reward loyalty now in silver, in protection, in power. That offer, made quietly in warehouses and counting houses, reshapes the continent. The central tension here is not between kings and peasants. It is between 2 systems of authority, the sacred, vertical hierarchy of crown and cross, and the horizontal web of men who owe each other debts, oaths, and silence. Beat 1. The oath system. Every major guild in medieval Europe operates on a system of sworn oaths that the church officially considers blasphemous. The church holds that oaths belong to God alone. To swear loyalty to a merchant brotherhood, to place human solidarity above divine authority, is, technically, a sin. The guilds do it anyway, in writing, in public, before witnesses. In the surviving statutes of the German Hansa, dating to the late 12th century, the oath structure is explicit. Members swear mutual aid, mutual secrecy, and mutual enforcement. If a brother is cheated, the whole guild withdraws from the offending party. No trade. Number credit, no passage through guild-controlled ports. This is not a suggestion. This is enforced excommunication, a mirror of the church's own most powerful weapon, wielded by merchants. The men who joined understood exactly what they were building. A parallel structure of power with its own laws, its own courts, its own punishments. The church excommunicates your soul. The guild excommunicates your livelihood. In the medieval economy, the second threat is often more immediate. Beat 2. The counting house as intelligence network information is the true currency of the medieval merchant world. And the guild controls it absolutely. Every Hanseatic kontor, the fortified trading post established in foreign cities, functions simultaneously as a warehouse, a bank, a court, and an intelligence gathering station. The kontor in Novgorod, Russia, established in the early 13th century, operates inside a walled compound. The Russian population is forbidden to enter. The merchants inside speak Low German. They worship in their own chapel. They do not intermarry with locals. They correspond in cipher with their home cities. These are not eccentricities. These are deliberate features of a system designed to ensure that commercial intelligence, which ships are coming, which roads are clear, which lord is bankrupt, which harvest has failed, flows only within the network. A German cloth merchant in London in 1250 knows the price of wool in Bruges before the English king's own advisors do. He acts on that information. He profits. He shares the intelligence with his brothers, and he keeps it from everyone else. This is not merely commerce. This is statecraft conducted by men with no crowns. But the information network is only half the story. What the guild does when a king refuses to cooperate, what leverage they hold over sovereign rulers, and how they use it, that record was kept too. And it is significantly darker than anything involving cloaks and counting houses. Beat 3. The weapon of credit in 1263. King Henry III of England needs money. He needs it urgently, for wars, for debts, for the simple administrative cost of running a kingdom that has been living beyond its means for 30 years. He goes to the Hanseatic merchants. He has nowhere else to go. The Italian banking families, the Bardi, the Peruzzi, are deep in his debt already. The church will not lend at interest. That is usury, which is a sin. The guild lends. But the guild charges in the form of trading privileges that effectively surrender English economic sovereignty. Hanseatic merchants are granted exemption from English customs duties. They have their own legal quarter in London, the Steelyard, on the Thames, where English law does not fully apply. They trade freely in goods that English merchants are taxed on, for decades, for generations. Henry does not fully understand what he has signed. His grandson Edward I understands perfectly, and tries to revoke the privileges. The guild cuts off his credit. He backs down. This cycle, Crown borrows, guild extracts concessions, Crown attempts to claw them back, guild applies economic pressure, repeats across England, Flanders, Denmark, Norway, and the Baltic states for 2 centuries. No army is raised, no blood is spilled. The weapon is the ledger. Beat 4. The guild court system. In 1420, a detailed record survives from the Lübeck Council, the effective governing body of the Hanseatic League at its height. It concerns the case of one Heinrich Dunkelberg, a merchant from Hamburg accused by his guild brothers of trading outside the approved networks, specifically, of dealing with Venetian merchants who had been placed under the guild's economic embargo. Dunkelberg is not tried in a German court. He is not tried in a church court. He is tried by a committee of guild elders behind closed doors in the counting house on Breitstrasse. The record of the proceedings is 43 pages long. It includes sworn testimony from 9 witnesses, a full account of Dunkelberg's trading records going back 11 years, and a final sentence that strips him of his membership, his credit network, and his right to use any Hanseatic port. He is not imprisoned. He is not executed. He simply ceases to exist as a commercial entity. Within 2 years, his business is gone. Within 4, the record suggests he is dead, not by violence, but by the collapse of everything a medieval merchant needed to survive. The guild court had no jurisdiction over him. It did not need jurisdiction. It had something more powerful, the capacity to make a man economically invisible in a world where the guild controlled the ports, the roads, the credit, and the prices. This is what a shadow government looks like. Not a conspiracy of robes and symbols, a conspiracy of ledgers and silence. Beat 5. The political marriages and dynastic manipulation. By the 5th-10th century, the guild is no longer merely responding to political events. It is shaping them. The Hanseatic League's intervention in the Danish succession crisis of the 1460s is the clearest example. Christian I of Denmark attempts to consolidate control over the Baltic trade routes that the Hansa has treated as its private highway for a century. The guild does not send an army. It funds one. Specifically, it finances the opposition faction within the Danish nobility, provides them with naval support through guild-controlled Lübeck, and ensures that the political settlement that follows, the Treaty of Oldesloe in 1464, explicitly protects Hanseatic trading rights. Christian I, a reigning monarch, signs a treaty dictated in its essential terms by a body of merchants who hold no official political standing whatsoever. He has no choice. His navy needs resupply. His army needs grain. The grain is in guild warehouses. This is the moment the system reveals its full shape. The guild does not merely operate within the political order. At its height, it operates above it. Kings are variables in the guild's commercial calculations, obstacles to be neutralized, tools to be deployed, or partners to be kept cooperative through carefully managed credit. The church called this disorder. The guild called it business. But here is the fact that never makes it into the standard histories. The fact that sits in the guild's own internal documents and has been overlooked not because it was suppressed, but because it was so mundane to the men who recorded it that they did not think to hide it. The Hanseatic League maintained a blacklist. Not a metaphorical blacklist, a physical one. A document, updated regularly, circulated to every kontor in every city in the network, listing the names of merchants, lords, bishops, and civic officials who had acted against guild interests. The list was not limited to men who defaulted on debts. It included men who had testified against guild members in secular courts, men who had supported legislation unfavorable to guild trade, men who had, in the guild's assessment, failed to honor the informal obligations of the commercial relationship. Once your name was on the list, no guild member would trade with you, lend to you, insure your ships, vouch for your credit, or share road information with you. This is, in practical terms, a sentence of commercial death, issued with no trial, no appeal, no recourse to any court, secular or sacred. But the truly disturbing detail is this: the list included clergy, bishops who taxed guild goods too aggressively, abbots whose monastery tolls cut into trade margins, a cardinal, unnamed in the surviving document, but a cardinal nonetheless, who appears on the Lübeck blacklist sometime in the 1480s. The church held the power of excommunication over every Christian soul in Europe. It could, in theory, place an entire city beyond the reach of God. The guild placed that cardinal beyond the reach of commerce. And in a world where the church itself depended on guild merchants to supply its cathedrals, fund its building programs, and move its correspondence across the continent, commerce won. The cardinal's name was removed from the list within 18 months. No record survives of what concession was made. The guild's ledger simply notes, in the dry language of men who do not need to explain themselves, matter resolved. Matter resolved. 7 centuries later, we are still living inside systems built on that logic. That economic leverage, applied with patience and precision, is the most durable form of power ever devised. It requires no army. It leaves no bodies. It writes itself into treaties and contracts and quietly signed agreements, and then it waits. The Hanseatic League formally dissolves in 1669. Its last official assembly, in Lübeck, is attended by representatives from exactly 6 cities, a ghost of a network that once spanned a continent. But the dissolution is an administrative fiction. The families, the trade routes, the debt relationships, the learned habit of organizing commerce into exclusive networks with their own rules and their own enforcement, none of that disappears. It evolves. It puts on a different face. What the guild proved across 3 centuries of operation was a truth that power has known ever since. You do not need a throne to rule. You need control over what people cannot do without. In the medieval world, that was grain, salt, cloth, and credit. The question worth sitting with, the one the guild's own records quietly raise, is not whether this kind of power existed then. It is whether the system they built ever truly ended. Or whether it simply learned, like the guild itself once learned, to stop writing things down. If you want more history they buried, subscribe. New video every day.